At 78, her own family dumped her to die. What she found at a hidden ranch would expose a truth they never saw. The road burned under a ruthless Colorado sun as Martha Bennett stood alone, abandoned with nothing but a suitcase and a fading heartbeat. Then, beyond the dust and silence, a ranch appeared, quiet, watchful, almost waiting. Inside, a scarred Navy SEAL and his loyal dog would uncover a truth buried for years, and nothing would ever be the same. Comment 1 if you would fight back or 0 if you would walk away. And tell me where you're watching from. The road had no name. It stretched out in both directions like a faded scar across the high desert, a thin line of pale dirt cutting through scrub-brush and stone. The mountains in the distance rose in quiet indifference, their blue-gray silhouettes softened by heat and distance. No cars passed. No fences marked ownership. No sound lived here except wind. Martha Bennett sat in the passenger seat of the dark sedan, her hands folded neatly in her lap, as if posture alone could hold her life together. She had always been a composed woman. Even now, at 78, with her silver hair pinned carefully at the nape of her neck, and her blouse pressed that morning out of habit, she carried herself with the quiet dignity of someone who had lived a long life with purpose. But something inside her had begun to tremble. Not physically, not yet, but in that deeper place where certainty used to live. Dean Holloway did not look at her. His hands stayed on the steering wheel, his jaw set, his eyes fixed on the empty road ahead. The same man who had stood beside her at Harold's funeral 3 months ago, offering stiff condolences and firm reassurances, now carried a silence that felt like a closed door. "Dean," Martha said gently, her voice dry from the altitude and the heat, "where exactly are we going?" "We're almost there," he replied. He had said that twice already. The words landed the same way each time, flat, without warmth, without explanation. Martha turned her gaze toward the window. The familiar world had disappeared hours ago. The town of Gunnison, with its small shops and quiet streets, and the lake that shimmered in morning light, felt like a memory from another lifetime. This land was different, raw, unforgiving. A place that did not care whether you belonged or not. Her fingers found the bracelet around her wrist, a thin silver chain worn smooth by decades of touch. A small charm shaped like a heart hung from it, scratched from years of use but still intact. Her mother had given it to her when she was 12, pressing it into her palm with a simple instruction. Keep something that reminds you who you are. Martha closed her fingers around it now. The car slowed. At first she thought it was just another turn in the road, another stretch of unfamiliar ground. But then Dean eased the vehicle to a stop, the tires crunching against loose gravel. The engine idled for a moment, then went quiet. The silence that followed felt heavier than the heat. Dean opened his door and stepped out without a word. Martha blinked, her mind catching up slowly. "Dean?" she called, confusion threading through her voice. He walked around the front of the car, opened the trunk, and pulled out her suitcase. The same suitcase she had packed in a hurry that morning, still believing she was being taken somewhere temporary, somewhere reasonable. He set it down on the side of the road, then her purse. Martha's chest tightened. "Dean, what are you doing?" He didn't answer immediately. He shut the trunk with a dull, final sound, then came around to her side and opened her door. The desert air rushed in, hot and dry, carrying the faint smell of dust and sunburned earth. "You'll be fine here," he said. The words didn't make sense. Martha stared at him, searching his face for something, uncertainty, hesitation, anything that might suggest this was a misunderstanding. But there was nothing there, just resolve. "This isn't funny," she said, her voice unsteady now. "If this is some kind of mistake, it's not a mistake." The interruption was sharp, clean. He stepped back, giving her space to get out. Martha didn't move. Her hands tightened around the bracelet. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You signed the papers," Dean said. "Everything's been transferred. The house, the accounts, all of it. It's done." The words landed like distant thunder, heard, but not fully felt. "I signed estate documents," Martha said slowly. "You said it was for administration, for managing things after Harold." "And that's exactly what it was," Dean replied, his tone flattening further. "Management." A breeze passed through the open car door, lifting a strand of her hair. Martha felt something inside her shift, something deep and irreversible. "You brought me out here," she said, the realization forming piece by piece. "To leave me." Dean didn't deny it. "I made arrangements," he said. "There's a facility about 20 miles west. They'll take you in. You just need to walk the road." 20 miles. Martha stared at him. "I'm 78 years old." He shrugged slightly, as if the number carried no weight. "You're tougher than you look," he said. For a moment, the world seemed to narrow, the edges of her vision blurring under the weight of what she was hearing. The man in front of her was no longer a grieving son. He was something else. Someone she did not know. Martha stepped out of the car slowly, her legs stiff, her balance uncertain on the uneven ground. The heat wrapped around her immediately, pressing against her skin, draining the air from her lungs. She stood there, beside the road, beside her suitcase. "Dean," she said, one last time, her voice quieter now, stripped of everything except the barest thread of hope. "Please." He didn't look at her. He got back into the car, shut the door, and started the engine. The sound filled the empty landscape, loud and final. Then the car pulled away. Dust rose behind it, thick and blinding, swallowing the shape of the vehicle until it became nothing more than a shadow, then nothing at all. Martha stood alone. The silence returned, deeper than before. For a long moment, she didn't move. The heat pressed down. The wind whispered across the dry ground. Somewhere far off, a bird called once, then went quiet again. Martha looked down at her suitcase, then at the road, then at the mountains. Her hand tightened around the bracelet until the metal pressed into her skin. "Keep something that reminds you who you are." She took a breath. It felt like breathing fire. But she took another. Then she bent, picked up the suitcase with both hands, and lifted it with effort that trembled through her arms. She slipped the purse over her shoulder, adjusted her stance, and stepped forward. One step, then another. The road stretched ahead of her, endless and indifferent. She walked. Because stopping was not an option. Because stopping meant surrender. And somewhere, far ahead, beyond the heat shimmer and the wavering horizon, she saw it. A shape, low, wide, still. A ranch, sitting at the edge of the mountains like it had been waiting there all along. Martha kept walking toward it. She did not know yet that her life had already changed. She only knew that she had not stopped. And that was enough. For now. The first few steps felt heavier than they should have. Martha Bennett moved slowly along the dirt road, her suitcase dragging slightly behind her, the small wheels catching on loose stones and uneven patches of ground. Each pull sent a dull vibration up her arm, but she did not stop. The desert heat wrapped around her like a weight, pressing against her chest, making each breath shallower than the last. The sun had begun its slow descent behind the distant mountains, but the heat had not yet followed. It lingered in the air, clinging to the earth, rising from the road in waves that blurred the horizon. She kept her eyes forward, looking back would change nothing. The road curved gently ahead, disappearing behind a cluster of scrubby juniper trees. Beyond them, the faint outline she had seen earlier began to sharpen, gaining form with each step. A fence. Old weathered wood, bleached pale by years of sun and wind. It stretched along the edge of the road, not as a barrier, but as a quiet suggestion of boundary. Something tended, something claimed. Martha slowed. Her heart beat harder now, not from exertion alone, but from something else. A fragile thread of awareness that she was no longer walking through emptiness. There was something here. She lifted her gaze. A windmill stood beyond the fence, its metal blades turning slowly in the dry breeze, each rotation creaking faintly, like a memory refusing to fade. Nearby, a horse paddock stretched wide and quiet, the ground marked with hoof prints but no animals in sight. Farther back, set against the rising slope of the land, stood the ranch house, low and wide, built of timber and stone, not new but not abandoned, the kind of place that had endured seasons, the kind of place that watched time pass without needing to chase it. Martha stopped for a moment, her breath catching slightly. It did not look empty. It looked waiting. She adjusted her grip on the suitcase and continued forward. The closer she came, the more details emerged. A line of tools leaning neatly against the side of a barn, a stack of firewood arranged with careful precision, a length of rope coiled and hung on a hook, not discarded, but placed. Nothing here was careless. Even in the stillness, there was order. Martha reached the edge of the fence line and paused again. A gate stood a few yards ahead. Heavy iron, framed in wood, its hinges worn but maintained. It was open, not wide but enough to suggest passage rather than invitation. The road continued through it, curving gently toward the house. She hesitated. The air had changed. The silence here was different from the silence of the open road. It was not empty. It was full. Layered, holding something beneath its surface. Martha listened. At first, she heard only the wind. Then, a sound. Low, deep, a bark. It came from somewhere beyond the house, distant but unmistakable. Not frantic, not aggressive, just a single, deliberate note, as if something had acknowledged her presence. Then nothing. The silence returned, thicker now. Martha's fingers tightened around the handle of her suitcase. She had lived long enough to recognize when something unseen was paying attention. But there was no threat in the sound, no warning, just awareness. She took a breath, steadying herself. "You've come this far," she murmured quietly, the words more for herself than for anything else. The bracelet on her wrist caught the fading light as she shifted her hand. She stepped forward. The gravel beneath her shoes crunched softly as she passed through the open gate. For a moment, she felt something she could not fully explain, as if she had crossed an invisible line, as if whatever had been behind her, dust, betrayal, the echo of a car disappearing, had remained on the other side. Ahead of her, the ranch stretched out in quiet clarity. The windmill turned. The barn stood still. The house waited. Martha moved along the narrow drive, each step carrying her closer to the front porch. The boards creaked faintly under her weight as she climbed the steps, the sound sharp in the still air. She set her suitcase down beside the door. Her hand hovered over the wood for a moment before she knocked. Once. The sound echoed inside. She waited. No answer. She knocked again, a little firmer this time. Still nothing. Martha glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see someone approaching from the barn or the far edge of the property. No one came. The light had softened now. the harsh glare of afternoon giving way to a muted gold that stretched across the land. Shadows lengthened, reaching toward her feet. She turned back to the door. Slowly, carefully, she reached for the handle. It turned, unlocked. The door opened inward with a soft, steady motion, revealing a dim interior that smelled faintly of wood, leather, and something else she couldn't quite place. Something clean, controlled. Martha stepped inside. The air was cooler. Still. The room she entered was large, open, and simple in its design. A wide wooden floor stretched beneath her, polished, but not for show, polished from use. A stone fireplace stood along one wall, its mantel bare except for a single, neatly folded flag. There was furniture, but it was arranged with purpose, not decoration. A table, a chair, a long bench near the wall. Nothing unnecessary. Nothing out of place. Martha closed the door behind her, the sound soft but final. For the first time since the car had stopped on that empty road, she allowed herself to feel the edge of something unfamiliar. Not safety, not yet, but something close to it. She took a step forward, then another, and then she saw it. The far wall. At first, her mind struggled to understand what she was looking at. Shapes, lines, patterns, then clarity came. Maps, dozens of them, pinned side by side, layered, overlapping in places, marked with ink, notes, and symbols she did not yet recognize. Land boundaries, survey lines, roads she had never seen, interwoven among them. Photographs, newspaper clippings, documents. Every inch of the wall was covered, not randomly, deliberately, connected. Martha's breath slowed. Her heart began to pound. She took a step closer. One of the photographs caught her eye. It was small, slightly faded, taken from a distance. A woman standing near a lakeside fence. Her posture familiar. Her coat, one she remembered wearing years ago. Martha reached out, her fingers trembling as they hovered just short of the paper. The woman in the photograph was her. She froze. The room seemed to shift around her, the air tightening, pressing in. Another photograph, and another. Different angles, different years, different seasons. Her face, her life, pinned to a wall she had never seen. Martha's hand dropped slowly to her side. A sound moved behind her. Soft, controlled. She turned. In the doorway that led deeper into the house, a figure stood. Large. Still. A German shepherd. His coat was dark, marked with age and experience. One ear bore a faint scar. His eyes, deep, intelligent, unblinking, were fixed on her. He did not move. He did not bark. He simply watched. Martha felt her breath catch. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, slowly, the dog stepped forward. One step, then another. Each movement measured, deliberate. Martha remained where she was, her hands open at her sides, her body still. The dog approached until he stood just within arm's reach. He lowered his head slightly, sniffed her hand, paused. Then, without hesitation, he leaned his weight gently against her leg. Not pushing, not testing, claiming. Martha's eyes filled with something she had not expected. Not fear, not confusion. Something quieter, something deeper. The dog stayed there, solid and warm against her, as if he had decided something about her that she did not yet understand. And for the first time since she had been left on that road, Martha did not feel entirely alone. The silence of the ranch held them both. But now, it felt different, as if something had shifted, as if something had begun. And somewhere beyond the walls, the mountains watched, unchanged, as the last light of day slipped quietly toward evening. Martha Bennett stood in the center of the room, her body still, her breath shallow, the weight of what she had just seen pressing against her chest. The wall did not move. The photographs did not change, but everything inside her had shifted. The dog remained beside her, his shoulder pressed gently against her leg, his presence steady, grounded. He did not demand her attention. He did not pace or circle. He simply stayed. Martha turned slowly back toward the wall. She took a step closer, then another. The floor creaked softly beneath her shoes, the sound almost too loud in the quiet room. She lifted her hand again, this time letting her fingers brush lightly against one of the photographs. The paper was smooth, real, not imagined. The image showed her standing near the edge of Lake Gunnison, wrapped in a dark coat, looking out across the water. The angle suggested distance, someone watching from far away, unseen. Martha swallowed. She remembered that coat. She remembered that day. But she did not remember anyone being there. Her eyes moved across the wall. Another photograph, older. She was younger in this one, her hair darker, her posture lighter. She stood in front of the farmhouse porch, one hand resting on the railing, the other holding a basket of vegetables she had just gathered. Another. Inside the kitchen, sunlight falling across the table, her hands folded around a cup of tea. Another. Walking down the dirt path behind the barn, her shadow long in the late afternoon light. Martha's fingers trembled. "This isn't," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This isn't possible." The dog shifted slightly, as if responding not to her words, but to the change in her breathing. She turned toward him. Up close, she could see more clearly the marks of his life. A faint scar ran along his muzzle. His coat, though thick and well-kept, showed the subtle signs of age and experience. His eyes, deep brown, almost black in the dim light, held a kind of awareness that felt far beyond instinct. "You knew I was coming," she said softly, though she did not expect an answer. The dog blinked once. That was all. But it felt like acknowledgement. Martha let out a slow breath, her shoulders lowering just slightly. "You're not lost," she murmured. "And this place it's not abandoned." Her gaze drifted back to the wall. The structure of it began to reveal itself more clearly now. It was not chaos. It was not obsession. It was organization. Lines drawn between documents. Dates marked carefully in the margins. Property boundaries outlined in red ink. Legal terms circled. Names underlined. And her own life, threaded through it all. Martha stepped closer to the center of the wall. A larger map caught her attention. It showed a wide stretch of land, mountains, roads, parcels divided into sections. She recognized part of it immediately. Her farm, the Bennett property. The lines were precise, detailed in a way that suggested official records, not guesswork. Small notes had been written beside certain sections, dates and initials marking changes over time. Martha's chest tightened. She leaned in. Her eyes scanned the map, following the boundary lines she had known for decades. Then she saw it. A section marked in darker ink. A recent addition. Her property, outlined again, but this time with a note written beside it. Transfer initiated, Holloway. Martha's breath caught. The room seemed to tilt slightly, the edges of her vision narrowing. "No," she whispered. The dog shifted again, pressing more firmly against her leg, grounding her. Martha reached out, steadying herself against the edge of the wall. "This isn't just—" She stopped, trying to form the thought. This isn't just pictures. Her eyes moved quickly now, scanning, searching. There, another set of documents, bank statements, legal filings, copies of forms she recognized only in fragments. Her name, Dean's name, dates that lined up with the weeks after Harold's death. Martha's mind began to piece it together. Someone had been watching, not casually, not from a distance without purpose. Someone had been following the details, the changes, the patterns, the quiet shifts that she herself had not fully understood until it was too late. Someone knew, she said, her voice steadier now, though still low. Someone saw what he was doing. The dog lifted his head slightly, ears alert. Martha turned again toward the doorway where he had first appeared. The hallway beyond was dim, shadows stretching along the floor as the last of the daylight faded. The house felt larger now, deeper than the single room she had entered. Occupied, lived in, waiting. She took a cautious step toward the hallway. The dog moved with her, not in front, not behind, beside, always beside. They walked together slowly, the sound of their movement soft against the wooden floor. Martha's hand brushed lightly against the wall as she moved, grounding herself in something solid. Her heart still raced, but there was a different quality to it now. Less panic, more awareness. At the edge of the hallway, she paused. The air shifted again. A faint sound reached her ears, distant at first, then clearer, the low hum of an engine. Martha's body went still. The dog froze. Every muscle in him tightened, not in fear, but in readiness. His head turned slightly toward the direction of the sound, ears forward, eyes sharp. Martha followed his gaze. Outside, the sound grew louder. A vehicle approaching, gravel crunching, the engine slowing. Martha felt a surge of something sharp and immediate. Fear, yes, but also something else. Expectation. The dog stepped forward now, moving toward the front of the house with quiet urgency. Martha followed, her steps quicker, her breath catching again in her chest. They reached the main room just as the engine cut off. Silence fell. Then, a car door opened, closed, footsteps, measured, approaching. The dog moved to the center of the room, his body positioned between Martha and the door, his stance calm but unyielding. Martha stood just behind him, her hands instinctively gripping the edge of her purse. The doorknob turned. Slowly, the door opened, and in the fading light of the desert evening, a man stepped inside. He paused the moment he crossed the threshold. His eyes moved first to the dog, then to Martha. And everything in the room changed. The silence deepened. The air tightened. The man did not speak immediately, but the look in his eyes made one thing unmistakably clear. He had not expected her, and yet he knew exactly who she was. Martha felt it in the stillness, in the way the dog did not move away from her, in the way the man's expression shifted, not to surprise alone but to recognition. Something had already been set in motion long before she ever walked through that gate. And now, it had found her, standing in the center of it, waiting. Martha Bennett did not move. The man in the doorway filled the space without trying to. He stood tall, broad-shouldered, his frame outlined by the fading desert light behind him. Dust clung to his boots. His shirt was dark with sweat at the collar. There was nothing careless about him. Everything in the way he held himself spoke of control, of awareness, of a life lived where hesitation had consequences. His eyes were the first thing that settled. They did not dart. They did not panic. They assessed. The German shepherd in front of Martha remained still, his body angled slightly forward, his weight balanced, ready. But he did not growl. He did not advance. That, more than anything, seemed to register with the man. His gaze flicked briefly to the dog, then back to Martha. A pause. Measured. Then, quietly, "You shouldn't be here." His voice was low, steady, carrying the weight of someone used to being heard without raising it. Martha swallowed. "I didn't mean to come here," she said, her voice strained but holding. "I had nowhere else to go." The man's expression did not soften, but something shifted behind his eyes. He stepped fully inside, closing the door behind him with a controlled motion that felt deliberate, final. The room seemed smaller now, more contained. "Titan," he said. The dog's ears flicked at the name, but he did not move away from Martha. He remained exactly where he was. The man noticed, a subtle tightening in his jaw. "Come," he said again, firmer this time. Titan glanced back at him, then, slowly, looked up at Martha. Only after a moment did he step away from her side, crossing the room with quiet precision to stand beside the man. The movement was not disobedience, but it had not been immediate, and that mattered. The man crouched slightly, his hand brushing briefly along the dog's neck, not as comfort, but as confirmation. Then he stood again. His attention returned to Martha. "Are you hurt?" The question came without emotion, but not without concern. Martha shook her head faintly. "No, just tired." He studied her for another second. Her posture, her breathing, the way her hand still hovered near her bracelet, as if it anchored her. "You've been walking," he said. "Yes." "From where?" Martha hesitated. The truth felt strange in her mouth. "From the road," she said. "He left me there." The man's eyes sharpened slightly. "Who?" She took a breath. "My stepson, Dean Holloway." The name landed in the room like something physical. The man did not react immediately, but Martha saw it. The smallest change, a tightening, a recognition. "You're Martha Bennett," he said. It wasn't a question. Martha felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air. "Yes." Another pause. Longer this time. Then he nodded once, as if confirming something already known. "Sit down," he said, gesturing toward the chair near the table. "You're dehydrated." Martha obeyed without argument. Her legs felt weaker now that she had stopped moving, the strain of the walk settling into her bones. She lowered herself into the chair carefully, her hands resting in her lap, her breathing uneven. The man moved through the space with quiet efficiency. He poured water from a metal pitcher into a glass and set it in front of her. "Drink." Martha lifted it with both hands. The water was cool, not cold, but enough. She drank slowly at first, then faster. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. She set the glass down, her fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you," she said. He nodded once. Nothing more. He pulled another chair across from her and sat, his posture straight, his elbows resting lightly on his knees. Up close, she could see more clearly. The lines at the corners of his eyes, the faint scar along his left forearm. The stillness that wasn't natural. It was practiced. "Cole Mercer," he said. Martha inclined her head. "Martha Bennett." "I know." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Martha glanced toward the wall again, then back to him. "You've been watching me," she said. Not accusing, not yet. Just stating what could no longer be denied. Cole followed her gaze to the wall, then returned it to her. Monitoring, he said. For what? For patterns. Martha frowned slightly. I don't understand. Cole leaned back just enough to create space but not distance. Your husband, he said. Harold Bennett. Martha's chest tightened at the name. What about him? Cole's gaze held steady. He helped me, he said. Years ago, when I came back. Back from where? Deployment. The word was clipped, contained. Martha understood enough not to press. He gave me work, Cole continued. Let me stay on part of this land when I couldn't adjust. Didn't ask questions. Didn't push. Martha listened, her mind trying to connect the pieces. I didn't know that, she said softly. He didn't talk about it, Cole replied. Didn't need to. Silence settled briefly between them. Then, before he died, Cole added, he came out here, told me something didn't feel right. Martha's fingers tightened in her lap. He said if anything started changing around you, financially, legally, behaviorally, I should keep an eye on it. Her breath caught. He knew? He suspected. Cole's voice remained even. I don't move on suspicion, he said. I watch, I document, I wait for proof. Martha's eyes flickered again to the wall, the photographs, the documents. All of that, she whispered. Started as a precaution, Cole said. Then it became something else. Martha felt the weight of it settle in. You knew what Dean was doing, she said. I knew something was wrong, Cole corrected. Didn't have enough to act, not until recently. A pause, then. Did he hurt you? The question was direct. Martha hesitated. He didn't hit me, she said carefully. He just took everything else. Cole's jaw tightened slightly. That's still harm. Martha looked down at her hands. I didn't see it, she admitted. Not clearly, not until it was too late. Cole didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. That's how it works. The room fell silent again. Not empty. Full. Martha exhaled slowly, her shoulders lowering. I thought I was coming somewhere safe this morning, she said. Somewhere temporary. She let out a small, almost humorless breath. I didn't think I was being removed. Cole watched her. Then, after a moment, You're not staying on that road, he said. It wasn't framed as a question. It was a decision. Martha looked up at him. I don't have anywhere else. You do tonight. The certainty in his tone left no room for argument. Martha felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Not relief, exactly, but something close. Her eyes drifted toward Titan, who had settled near the doorway, watching them both with quiet attention. He didn't leave me, she said softly, nodding toward the dog. Cole glanced at Titan. A faint shift passed through his expression. He makes his own calls sometimes, he said. Martha managed the smallest hint of a smile. I'm glad he did. Cole didn't reply, but he didn't disagree. Outside, the last light of day slipped behind the mountains, casting the ranch into shadow. Inside, the air cooled, and for the first time since the car had driven away, Martha Bennett was no longer standing alone in the open. She was inside something structured, something watchful, something that had been waiting longer than she knew. And though she did not yet understand it fully, she could feel it. The shift from being abandoned to being found. The shift was quiet. It did not arrive like relief or comfort, not all at once. It came in small, careful pieces. The weight of a chair beneath her, the cool glass of water still in her hand, the steady presence of a man who did not rush his words, and the silent watch of a dog who had already decided she belonged inside this space. Night settled slowly over the ranch. Through the wide front windows, the last traces of daylight faded into deep blue, then into something darker, softer. A single lantern on the table cast a warm, steady glow across the room, illuminating the edges of the maps, the faint lines of ink, the quiet order of everything that had been placed with intention. Martha Bennett sat across from Cole Mercer, her posture slightly more relaxed than before, though the tension had not left her entirely. It had simply changed shape. Cole set a small plate of food in front of her. Nothing elaborate. Just bread, a bowl of stew, and a spoon. He did not make a ceremony of it. He placed it there, then stepped back. "Eat," he said. Martha hesitated for only a moment before reaching for the spoon. The first bite felt strange, as if her body had forgotten the rhythm of something so simple. Then hunger caught up with her, quiet but undeniable. She ate, slowly, carefully. The warmth of the food spread through her, settling something that had been rattling loose inside her since morning. Cole remained standing for a while, leaning lightly against the edge of the counter, watching. Not intrusively, but attentively. Titan lay near the doorway, his head resting on his paws, eyes open, tracking every movement in the room. When Martha finished, she set the spoon down and folded her hands again, her fingers brushing lightly against the silver bracelet. "Thank you," she said. Cole nodded once. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was waiting. Martha drew in a breath. "I lived on the Bennett farm for 51 years, she began. Her voice was steadier now, though softer. "It sits just outside Gunnison. You probably know it." Cole gave a slight nod. "I do." Martha looked down briefly, as if seeing it again in her mind. "It wasn't large," she continued. "Not by some standards, but it was ours. My husband built most of it himself, piece by piece, and fence lines first, then the house, then the barn." Her lips curved faintly, a memory surfacing. He always said the land taught him more than any man ever could. Cole listened without interrupting. Martha's gaze drifted toward the window, though there was nothing left to see outside now but darkness. "Harold wasn't a complicated man," she said. "He believed in work, in showing up, in fixing things before they broke completely." Her voice caught slightly on the last word. She paused, took a breath. "3 years ago, he died in the living room," she said. Quietly. Just sat down in his chair and didn't get back up. The room seemed to still even further. "I held his hand," she added. "I remember thinking it felt strange how quickly a hand can go from warm to something else." Cole's eyes lowered briefly. He did not speak. Martha continued. "Dean came after that," she said. "At first he was attentive, helpful, or so I thought." Her fingers tightened slightly. "He said there were things I shouldn't have to worry about anymore. Paperwork, accounts, legal matters. He said he'd handle it." She let out a small breath. "And I let him." The admission hung in the air, not as regret alone, but as something heavier. "I had always handled those things myself," she said. "Every bill, every document. Harold trusted me with it all." She shook her head faintly. "But grief," she paused. "Grief changes the way you read things, changes the way you trust." Cole's gaze returned to her. "He replaced our attorney," she said. "Said the old one had retired. Brought in someone new. Someone I didn't know." Her voice sharpened slightly now, not with anger, but with clarity. Documents started arriving, long ones, full of language that felt dense, complicated. He'd bring them to me already marked. Tell me where to sign. Martha looked up at Cole. I didn't read them the way I should have, she said. Not carefully enough. Cole's jaw tightened. He counted on that, he said. Martha nodded slowly. Yes. She leaned back slightly in the chair, the memory unfolding more clearly now. Then things started to shift, she continued. Access to accounts became restricted. Decisions were made without me. Small at first, then larger. Her voice lowered. I remember the day I realized I no longer had control of my own home. The words settled heavily. I asked him about it, she said. Dean, I told him something didn't feel right. She paused. He smiled, she said quietly, and told me I was just tired, that I needed to trust him. Martha's hands trembled slightly now, though her voice remained composed. I did, she said, until this morning. Silence followed, not empty, full of everything she had just said. Cole exhaled slowly, his shoulders shifting slightly, as if adjusting under an invisible weight. You're not the first, he said. Martha looked at him. What do you mean? Cole straightened slightly, stepping away from the counter. There are patterns, he said, out here, in places like this. He gestured lightly toward the wall. People get older, lose someone, become isolated. Someone steps in, offers help. His eyes met hers, then takes control. Martha felt a cold understanding settle in. And no one sees it? She asked. Not until it's too late, Cole replied. A pause. Then, or until someone's watching. Martha's gaze shifted again toward the wall, toward the photographs, toward the evidence of a life she had not known was being observed. You were watching, she said. Cole did not deny it. I was watching the situation, he said. Not you. Martha considered that. It mattered, more than she expected. Why didn't you step in sooner? She asked. Cole's expression changed. Not dramatically, but enough. I didn't have enough, he said. Suspicion doesn't hold up. Not in court. Not anywhere that matters. His voice remained steady, but there was something beneath it now, something restrained. I needed proof, he added. Martha nodded slowly. I understand that. Another silence settled. Outside, the wind shifted, brushing lightly against the walls of the house. Inside, the lantern flickered once, then steadied. Martha leaned back in her chair, her body beginning to register the exhaustion she had been holding at bay. I didn't think this is how my life would look, she said softly. Cole didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. It's not finished. Martha looked at him. There was no false reassurance in his tone, no empty comfort. Just fact. Her gaze drifted again toward Titan. The dog had not moved much, but his attention had never wavered. His eyes tracked both of them, his breathing slow, controlled. He stayed with me, she said. Cole followed her gaze. He chose to, he replied. Martha smiled faintly. I'm glad he did. The room fell quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. Not heavy, not uncertain, something steadier. Martha rose slowly from her chair. I think I should rest, she said. Cole nodded. Guest rooms down the hall. First door on the left. Martha hesitated for a moment. Then, "Thank you, Cole." He inclined his head slightly. "You're safe here tonight." The words landed softly, but they held. Martha turned and walked toward the hallway, her steps slower now, her body finally beginning to release the strain of the day. Titan lifted his head as she passed, watching her go. Cole remained where he was, still, quiet, listening. A few minutes passed. Then, from down the hall, a sound. Sharp. Sudden. A breath pulled too quickly. A shift of movement. Cole's head turned instantly. Titan was already on his feet. Another sound followed. Not loud, but enough. A man waking from something he could not escape. Cole moved, fast, down the hall, Titan beside him. They reached the doorway just as the sound came again, this time clearer. A gasp, a hand striking against wood. Martha stood in the hallway, frozen, her hand pressed lightly against the wall. Inside the room beyond, Cole's breath came hard, uneven, his body rigid, his eyes open, but not seeing the present. Titan moved first. He stepped in close, pressing firmly against Cole's side, grounding him, anchoring him, his presence unwavering. Cole's hands clenched, then loosened. His breathing slowed. Gradually, piece by piece, he returned. Martha watched from the doorway, silent, understanding something now she had not before. The man who had offered her safety was still fighting his own battles, and the dog was the reason he could. The house held them all. 3 lives, each carrying something broken, each still standing. And for the first time, not entirely alone. Morning came quietly to the ranch, not with noise, not with urgency, but with light. It slipped through the windows in long, pale bands, stretching across the wooden floor, catching dust in the air and turning it into something almost gentle. The desert had cooled overnight, and the first breath Martha Bennett took when she opened her eyes felt different, easier, deeper, like her lungs had remembered something they had nearly forgotten. For a moment, she did not move. She lay still beneath the thin blanket, listening. Wind moved softly outside. Somewhere in the distance, a metal hinge creaked. The house itself seemed to breathe in slow, steady rhythms. Safe. The word came to her carefully, as if it did not want to be mistaken. Martha sat up slowly, her body stiff from the previous day's strain. Her legs ached, her shoulders protested, but she was here, not on the road, not alone. She swung her feet to the floor and stood, steadying herself before walking toward the door. The hallway beyond was quiet, the same stillness from the night before now softened by morning light. As she stepped into the main room, she found Cole already awake. He stood near the far counter, pouring coffee into a metal cup. His movements were precise, economical. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. Titan lay near the doorway again, but his head lifted the moment Martha entered. His tail moved once against the floor, not a full wag. Just enough. Martha smiled faintly. "Good morning," she said. Cole glanced over, nodding once. "Morning." His voice was steady, but there was a quiet roughness to it, as if sleep had not fully come or had come too late. Martha noticed, but she did not mention it. Cole set another cup on the table and poured coffee into it. "Drink something," he said. "You'll feel better." Martha moved toward the chair, easing herself down carefully. She wrapped her hands around the cup, letting the warmth settle into her fingers before taking a sip. It helped, more than she expected. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The quiet was not empty. It was deliberate. Martha's gaze drifted again, almost unconsciously, toward the wall. The maps, the photographs, the evidence. In daylight, it looked even more precise. Every line sharper, every detail clearer. What had felt overwhelming in the dim light of evening now revealed its structure, purpose. Martha set her cup down slowly. "I need you to tell me everything," she said. Cole did not respond immediately. He took a slow sip from his own cup, then set it aside. "What do you want to know?" he asked. Martha met his eyes. "All of it." The words were calm, but firm. Cole studied her for a moment, measuring something. Then he nodded once. He stepped closer to the wall. "After I left the Navy," he began, "I didn't do well. Back in places where people live close together." The phrasing was simple, but it carried weight. "I tried," he added. "Didn't stick." Martha listened quietly. "Your husband found me through someone who knew someone," Cole continued. "I needed work. He needed help with the outer fencing and some of the land he wasn't using yet." A faint shift passed through his expression. "He didn't ask questions," Cole said. "Didn't try to fix anything. Just gave me space to work." Martha nodded slowly. "That sounds like Harold." Cole's gaze softened, just slightly. "Yeah," he said. "It does." He turned slightly, gesturing toward the land beyond the walls. "This place," he said, "started as a lease. Small, just enough to keep me moving. Eventually I bought it. Kept building." Martha followed his gesture, imagining it. A man alone, working land, building something steady out of something broken. "And Titan?" she asked softly. Cole glanced down at the dog. "Same unit," he said. "Different role. He was trained before I was assigned to him. We finished together." Titan's ears flicked slightly at the sound of his name, but he did not move. "He kept me functional," Cole added. The words were plain, but they held everything. Martha nodded again. "I can see that." Cole turned back to the wall. "A few years after I settled here, I started noticing things," he said. "Land changes, ownership transfers, people getting pushed out quietly." His finger traced a line along one of the maps. "Same patterns," he said. "Different names." Martha felt her chest tighten. "And mine?" she asked. Cole's hand paused. "Your husband came to me before he passed," he said. "Said something didn't feel right about your stepson. Didn't have proof, just instinct." Martha closed her eyes briefly. "He trusted his instincts," she said. "He was right too," Cole replied. He turned, meeting her gaze again. "He asked me to keep an eye on things," he said. "Nothing direct, just watch." Martha looked at the wall again. "And you did?" Cole nodded once. "At first it was just background," he said. "Property records, legal filings, public information." His expression darkened slightly. Then things started moving faster. Martha's hands tightened around the edge of the table. "After he died," she said. "Yes." Cole stepped closer to one section of the wall. "This," he said, pointing to a cluster of documents, "is where it shifted." Martha stood slowly, moving toward him. She followed his finger. Dates, signatures, legal language she recognized now with painful clarity. "He replaced your attorney," Cole said. "That's when the structure changed." Martha nodded. "I remember." Cole tapped another document. "These filings transferred partial control of the property," he said. "Then restricted access to accounts. Then consolidated authority." Martha's breath slowed. "He was building towards something," she said. "Yes," Cole's voice remained steady. But he needed you to sign off on each step to make it clean. Martha closed her eyes briefly. I did, she whispered. Cole did not soften his tone. He counted on that. Martha opened her eyes again. And you watched all of this happen, she said. There was no accusation, only truth. Cole met her gaze. I watched, he said, because stepping in too early would have made it disappear. He would have covered it, changed approach. A pause. I needed it documented. Martha absorbed that, slowly, painfully. But you knew, she said. I knew enough to wait, Cole replied. Martha turned away from the wall, her gaze dropping to the floor. That doesn't feel like much of a comfort, she said. No, Cole agreed. It doesn't. Silence settled again, but it was different now. Sharper. Martha drew in a breath. Then why didn't you stop him yesterday? She asked. Why didn't you come before he took everything? Cole's jaw tightened slightly. I didn't know he was going to move that fast, he said. Not until it was already happening. Martha nodded slowly. And now? She asked. Cole's eyes held hers. Now, he said, he's made a mistake. Martha frowned. What mistake? Cole gestured toward the wall again. He moved you, he said, physically, without documentation, without witnesses, without protection. Martha felt a chill move through her. He left me on that road. Yes, Cole's voice sharpened slightly. That's not a legal transfer, he said. That's abandonment. The word landed differently, heavier, more defined. And that, Cole added, changes everything. Martha stood still. The pieces began to shift again. Not into confusion, into clarity. You've been waiting for him to cross a line, she said. Cole nodded once. He just did. Martha looked back at the wall, at her life, mapped, tracked, protected in ways she had never known. You weren't watching me, she said quietly. Cole didn't respond. But he didn't need to. Martha understood now. He had been watching the threat, not the person, the danger, not the life. Her shoulders lowered slightly. Something inside her, tight and coiled since the road, began to loosen. Not completely, but enough. Titan rose slowly from his place near the doorway and walked toward them, his presence steady, grounding. He stopped beside Martha again, as if confirming what had already been decided. Martha reached down, her hand resting gently against his neck. Thank you, she murmured. The dog did not move, but he stayed, and that was enough, for now. Because the truth was no longer hidden. It was here, on the wall, in the documents, in the choices that had already been made. And for the first time since everything had begun to fall apart, Martha Bennett was no longer trying to understand what had been taken from her. She was beginning to see what could still be fought for. The shift inside her was quiet, but unmistakable. It showed in the way she stood now, no longer folded inward, no longer shrinking under the weight of confusion. Her shoulders had settled into something steadier. Her gaze lingered on the wall, not with fear, but with focus. Cole noticed. He did not say anything. He didn't need to. The morning light had strengthened, filling the room with a pale gold clarity. Outside, the wind had picked up slightly, brushing through the dry grass and stirring dust along the fence line. The ranch no longer felt like a place Martha had stumbled into. It felt like ground, something to stand on. Cole stepped away from the wall and moved toward a stack of documents on the table. We need to go through what you have, he said. Everything you took with you. Martha nodded. She turned, retrieving her small bag from beside the chair. The zipper stuck slightly when she pulled it open, the fabric worn from years of use. Inside she had packed quickly, without knowing what mattered most. But instinct had guided her. She removed a folder. Thin, worn, but intact. "These are copies," she said. "Not everything. Just what I had in the study drawer." Cole took the folder, flipping it open with careful attention. His eyes moved quickly, scanning dates, signatures, language. Titan stood nearby, watching. Martha sat down again, her hands folded loosely in her lap, her breathing steady. Minutes passed. Cole's focus did not break. Then, Titan moved. It was subtle at first. A shift of posture, a slight lift of his head, his ears angled toward the back of the house. Cole noticed immediately. His eyes lifted from the documents. Titan stood fully now, his body alert, his attention fixed beyond the walls of the main room. "What is it?" Cole asked quietly. Titan didn't bark, didn't growl. He turned and walked. Not toward the door, toward the hallway. Martha watched, her brow tightening slightly. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Cole stood. "Maybe," he said. Titan moved with purpose, his steps measured but direct. He passed the guest room, then continued down the hallway toward the back of the house, toward the door that led outside. Cole followed. Martha hesitated only a moment before rising and trailing behind them. The back door opened with a soft creak. Cooler air moved in. The light outside was brighter now, the sun fully above the mountains, casting long, clean shadows across the property. Titan stepped out first. His nose lowered. He moved across the packed dirt, his body shifting into a different mode entirely. Focused, precise, searching. Cole's posture changed with him. More alert, more controlled. "What is he doing?" Martha asked softly as she stepped outside. "Working," Cole said. Titan moved past the edge of the barn, circling once, then again, narrowing something down. His tail remained level, his movements efficient, no wasted energy. Then he stopped, near the old tack room, a smaller structure attached to the side of the barn, its wood darker from age, its door slightly warped from years of weather. Titan lowered his head further, sniffed, then began pawing at the ground, not casually, not playfully, with urgency. "Titan," Cole said. The dog did not stop. His paws struck the dirt again, harder now, scraping away loose soil, exposing the packed ground beneath. Cole moved closer. "What do you have?" he murmured. Titan shifted position, then began pawing at a different spot, closer to the edge of the structure, where the wood met the ground. Martha stepped closer, her heart beginning to quicken. "What is it?" she asked. Cole crouched. He brushed the dirt aside with his hand. Something solid lay beneath. Not rock, not wood. Metal. He paused, then looked at Titan. The dog stood back slightly, his eyes fixed on the spot, his body still charged with quiet intensity. Cole stood. "Wait here," he said. Martha did not argue. Cole disappeared briefly into the barn and returned with a pry bar. He knelt again, sliding the tool beneath the edge of the packed ground. The first attempt didn't give. The second shifted slightly. The third, the earth broke. A section of compacted dirt lifted, revealing a flat surface beneath. Cole cleared more away. A lid. Metal. Rectangular. Sealed. Martha's breath caught. Cole worked the edge carefully, prying it open with controlled force. The seal gave with a dull, hollow sound. Inside. A box, heavy, weathered, but intact. Cole lifted it out slowly, setting it on the ground. For a moment, no one spoke. The wind moved around them. The ranch remained still. Martha stepped closer. "What is that?" she whispered. Cole didn't answer immediately. He opened the box. Inside, documents. Carefully wrapped. Protected. A journal. A sealed envelope. A small flash drive. Martha felt something deep inside her chest tighten, then pull. Recognition. Not of the items themselves, but of the intention behind them. Cole picked up the journal first. The cover was worn, the edges softened with age. He opened it, flipped through a few pages. His expression shifted. He handed it to Martha. She took it carefully. Her hands trembled. She turned to the first page. The handwriting was unmistakable. Harold's. Her breath left her in a quiet, broken exhale. She whispered. Her eyes moved across the page. Dates, notes, observations. Careful, measured, not panicked, not emotional, deliberate. Martha turned another page, then another. Her heart began to pound. "He knew," she said. Cole nodded once. He suspected enough to prepare. Martha looked up at him, her eyes wide, wet but not falling. "He didn't tell me," she said. "He was protecting you," Cole replied, "until he had proof." Martha swallowed. Her gaze dropped back to the box. Cole picked up the envelope next. It was sealed. A name written on the front. Martha Bennett. Her breath caught again. Cole handed it to her. She hesitated only a moment before opening it. Inside. Legal documents, official, stamped, not copies, originals. Martha's hands shook more now. "What is this?" she asked. Cole leaned in slightly, scanning the top page. "A safeguard," he said. Martha looked at him. "What kind of safeguard?" Cole met her eyes. The kind he didn't trust anyone else to hold. The words settled between them. Heavy. Clear. Martha looked down at the papers again, then at the journal, then at the small flash drive resting at the bottom of the box. Her entire life, the one she thought had been quietly taken from her, shifted again. Not lost, not entirely. Hidden, protected, waiting. Her voice came out softer this time. "He didn't leave me unguarded," she said. Cole shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "He didn't." Titan stepped closer again, his presence steady, his work done. Martha reached down, her hand resting against his neck. "Thank you," she whispered. The dog remained still, but he stayed. And in that moment, standing in the dirt beside an old barn, holding the proof her husband had left behind, Martha Bennett understood something fully for the first time. She had not been abandoned by everyone. Someone had seen the danger. Someone had prepared for it. And now, because of a dog who refused to ignore what others might have missed, the truth had come back into the light. And this time, it was not leaving. The wind shifted across the ranch, carrying the scent of dry earth and something else, something sharper, unfamiliar. Cole felt it before he heard it, a subtle change, a disturbance in the rhythm of the land. Titan felt it too. The dog's head lifted, ears angling toward the front of the property. His body stiffened slightly, not in alarm, but in readiness. His focus moved beyond the barn, beyond the open yard, toward the road that cut across the far edge of the ranch. Cole straightened slowly, his eyes narrowing. "What is it?" Martha asked quietly. Cole didn't answer immediately. Then, the sound came. An engine. Distant at first. Then closer. Tires against gravel. Martha's chest tightened. Her grip on the envelope instinctively firmed. "They found me," she whispered. Cole's gaze remained fixed toward the front of the ranch. "Looks that way." The engine grew louder, then slowed. Stopped. Silence followed. Not empty. Waiting. Cole closed the metal box and set it aside carefully, his movements controlled but faster now. He took the documents from Martha's hands and placed them back inside, sealing it again. "Inside," he said. Martha hesitated. "I'm not hiding," she said. Cole looked at her, measured. "You're not hiding," he replied. "You're not exposed." The distinction mattered. Martha nodded once. Together, they moved back toward the house, Titan already ahead of them, his body low, his movements deliberate. They entered through the back and moved quickly to the front room. Cole set the box down near the wall, within reach but out of direct sight. He did not rush. Every action had purpose. Outside, a car door opened, closed. Another. Voices. Low, confident. Martha's breath slowed. Not with fear this time. With recognition. "Dean." She stepped forward. Cole didn't stop her. He simply moved to stand beside her. Titan positioned himself slightly ahead, his body aligned between them and the door. The knock came. Sharp, controlled, not uncertain. Dean did not wait long. The handle turned. The door opened. Dean Holloway stepped inside like he belonged there. His suit was crisp, his posture straight, his expression composed in the way of a man who believed he was still in control. Behind him stood another man, older, polished, carrying a briefcase, and two others who did not speak but watched everything. Dean's eyes moved quickly. The room, the wall, Cole, then Martha. A flicker of something crossed his face. Surprise, gone as quickly as it came. "Well," he said, his voice smooth, almost amused. "I was hoping we'd find you somewhere reasonable." Martha did not respond. She stood still, her shoulders squared, her gaze steady. Dean stepped further inside. "This has been unnecessarily complicated," he continued. "You leaving like that, very concerning. We've been looking for you." Martha's voice came calm. "You left me on a road." Dean's smile did not falter. "You misunderstand," he said. "You chose to get out." The lie hung in the air, clear, blunt. Cole's eyes did not leave Dean. "You should leave," he said. Dean turned toward him, his attention shifting for the first time. "And you are?" he asked. "Cole Mercer." Dean's gaze sharpened slightly. Recognition flickered again. "I see," he said. "The rancher." Cole didn't respond. Dean's eyes moved briefly to Titan. The dog did not move, but something in his stillness made one of the men behind Dean shift his weight uneasily. Dean ignored it. "We're here to resolve a legal matter," he said. "Martha needs to come with us." "No," Martha said. The word landed clean. No hesitation, no softness. Dean's expression tightened just slightly. "That's not how this works," he said. Martha met his gaze. "It is now." The room shifted, not in noise, in balance. Dean exhaled slowly, as if adjusting his approach. "Let's not make this difficult," he said. "Everything has already been signed. The property, the accounts, legally transferred." Cole stepped forward half a pace. "Not completely," he said. Dean's eyes snapped back to him. "And what exactly do you think you know?" Dean asked. Cole's voice remained level. I know you moved her without documentation, he said. Left her without transport, without support. A pause. That's not a transfer, Cole added. That's abandonment. The word hit harder this time. The attorney behind Dean shifted slightly, his expression tightening. Dean's jaw set. You're out of your depth, he said. Cole didn't move. I don't think so. Dean took a step forward. So what? He said. You think standing here changes anything? Cole held his gaze. No, he said. What changes things is evidence. Dean stilled, just for a fraction of a second. It was enough. Cole gestured slightly toward the wall. Property records, he said. Transfer timelines. Financial movement. His eyes didn't leave Dean. And footage. Dean's expression flickered. Footage? He repeated. Cole nodded once. The road, he said. Where you left her. Silence fell. Heavy. The attorney behind Dean spoke quietly. We should go. Dean ignored him. This is harassment, Dean said. You have no authority. I don't need authority, Cole interrupted. I just need to hand it to someone who does. Another shift. Subtle, but real. Dean's confidence cracked, not visibly to anyone who didn't know what to look for, but enough. One of the men behind him stepped slightly forward. Let's just take her and go, he muttered. The movement was small, but it changed everything. Titan moved, not forward, not aggressively, but enough. He stepped into full view, his body squared, his head low, his eyes locked onto the man who had spoken. The air tightened instantly. No bark, no snarl, just presence, pure, controlled, unyielding. The man stopped, mid-step, his breath caught. Dean's gaze flicked to Titan, then back to Cole. For the first time, there was uncertainty. Cole's voice came low. Don't. One word. That was all. It was enough. The man stepped back. Dean exhaled slowly. This time the composure did not fully return. He adjusted his jacket, his movements sharper now. This isn't over, he said. Cole nodded once. No, he said. It isn't. Dean looked at Martha. For a moment, something almost human flickered there. Then it was gone. He turned, walked out. The others followed. The door closed. The sound echoed through the house. Silence returned. But it was not the same silence as before. This one carried weight. After a moment, Martha exhaled. Her hands trembled slightly now. Not from fear, from release. Cole stepped back. Titan relaxed. Just enough. Martha looked at them both. They're going to come back, she said. Cole nodded. Yes. Martha held his gaze. And we're not going anywhere. It wasn't a question. Cole's expression remained steady. No, he said. We're not. Outside, the wind picked up again, moving across the land like a warning. Inside, something had shifted. The line had been crossed, and there was no going back. Only forward, into whatever came next. The ranch held its breath after they left. The sound of Dean's car faded into the distance, swallowed by the winding road and the wide, indifferent land beyond it. But the tension he had brought with him did not disappear so easily. It lingered, settling into the corners of the house, into the silence between words, into the stillness of the air itself. Martha Bennett stood near the center of the room, her hands still faintly trembling, though her face remained composed. Cole moved first. He crossed the room with quiet purpose and secured the door, not hurriedly, but with the deliberate certainty of someone who never assumed a situation was finished just because it appeared to be. Titan remained alert, his body still angled toward the entrance, listening even after the threat had gone. "They'll push again," Cole said. Martha nodded. "I know." Her voice was steady, stronger than before. Cole glanced at her briefly, as if reassessing something. Then he moved toward the table, reopening the metal box and checking its contents once more. The documents were still there. The journal, the flash drive, all intact. He closed it again. "This stays close," he said. Martha stepped forward. "I'm not afraid of him anymore," she said. Cole looked up. "That's good," he replied. "But fear isn't the only thing that keeps people careful." Martha held his gaze. "I'm not careless," she said. A pause. Then, "I just didn't see him clearly before." Cole nodded once. "That's over now." Outside, the wind shifted again, stronger this time, rattling lightly against the edges of the house. The sky had darkened fully, the last of the day replaced by a deep, heavy night that settled over the mountains. A storm was coming. Martha felt it in the pressure of the air, in the way the quiet had changed. She moved toward the window, looking out into the darkness. The outlines of the land were barely visible now, the ranch reduced to shapes and shadows under a sky that carried no stars. "It's going to rain," she said. Cole glanced toward the window. "Maybe," he said, "or something close to it." Thunder rolled in the distance, low, distant, but unmistakable. Martha turned back toward him. "You've done this before," she said. Cole didn't ask what she meant. He understood. "Yes." Martha stepped closer, her voice softer now. "Not just the legal part," she said. "The waiting. The watching." Cole exhaled slowly. "It's the same principle," he said. "Different field." Martha nodded. "I thought you were just protecting land," she said. Cole shook his head slightly. "People," he corrected. The word landed differently. Martha looked down briefly, absorbing it. "Then you understand what's coming," she said. Cole's expression didn't change. "Yes." Another pause. Thunder again. Closer. The first drops of rain hit the roof, soft at first, then steady, then stronger. The sound filled the space. Martha felt something shift again. Not outside this time, but inside the house. Inside the man standing across from her. It was subtle, but she saw it. The way his shoulders tightened. The way his breathing changed. The way his eyes moved, not outward, but inward. Titan saw it first. He rose from his position near the door and moved quickly, closing the distance between himself and Cole. His body pressed gently but firmly against Cole's leg, his presence immediate, grounding. Cole didn't react at first. His gaze had gone distant, not unfocused, but elsewhere. The thunder cracked again, louder now, sharper, echoing through the valley. Cole flinched, just slightly, but enough. Martha stepped forward instinctively. "Cole?" she said. He didn't answer. His breathing had shifted, shorter, uneven. Titan moved closer, pressing harder now, his body a steady anchor against Cole's side. His head lifted, his nose brushing against Cole's hand, forcing contact, forcing awareness. Cole's fingers twitched, then clenched. The storm intensified. Rain hammered against the roof now, the sound relentless, filling every space with noise that echoed and layered over itself. Martha felt the tension rise, not from the storm, but from what it was pulling out of him. "Cole," she said again, more firmly. Still no response. His eyes were open, but not here. Martha took another step forward. She reached out, her hand hovering for just a moment before settling lightly against his arm. "You're here," she said quietly. "You're not there anymore." The words were simple, but they held. Titan pressed closer, unmoving, unyielding. The dog's breathing remained slow, steady, deliberate, something to follow, something to return to. Cole's chest rose sharply once, then again. His jaw tightened, then loosened. Another breath, longer this time. The storm outside continued, but something inside the room began to shift. Cole's eyes blinked. Once, twice. The distance in them faded, slowly, piece by piece. He exhaled, long, heavy. And then he was back. The tension did not vanish, but it changed. From something uncontrolled to something contained. Titan did not move away. Not yet. Cole's hand dropped slightly, resting against the dog's shoulder. "Got it," he said quietly. More to himself than to anyone else. Martha stepped back just enough to give him space. But she did not leave. She watched him, not with fear, not with confusion, with understanding. The storm continued for several minutes, then began to ease, the rain softening, the thunder rolling farther away. Inside, the air settled again. Cole moved to the table, his movements slower now, more deliberate. "I'm fine," he said. Martha nodded. "I know." Another silence followed, but it was not the same as before. It was deeper, shared. Martha returned to her chair, sitting down carefully. "I've never seen that before," she said. Cole didn't look at her. Most people don't. Martha considered that. Then, "I'm glad I did." That made him pause, just for a moment. He glanced at her. "Why?" Martha's voice was steady. "Because now I understand what it costs you to stand here." The words settled quietly. Cole looked away again, but something in his posture shifted. Not weakness, recognition. Titan finally eased his weight, stepping back just slightly, though his attention remained fixed. The storm moved on. The night returned, and inside the ranch, something had changed again. Not in the land, not in the case, but in the space between them. 3 people, one silent understanding, each carrying something broken, each still standing. And now, not just surviving the night, but facing what would come after it. Together. Morning arrived colder than the day before. The storm had passed, but it left behind a sharp edge in the air, the kind that carried the promise of early frost even before winter had truly settled in. Thin patches of snow clung to the shaded ground along the fence lines, and the mountains stood clearer now, stripped of haze, their edges sharp against a pale sky. Martha Bennett stood on the porch, wrapped in a borrowed coat, watching the land. It looked different in the cold light. Not softer, but more honest. Cole moved near the barn, checking the perimeter with the quiet precision that had become second nature to him. Titan followed at a distance, his gait steady, though slower than usual after the long night. Nothing was said about it, but both of them knew. Martha turned as Cole approached, his expression focused. "We'll need to move on this today," he said. "Attorney in town, Rachel Kincaid. She's handled cases like this before." Martha nodded. "I'll go with you." Cole shook his head slightly. "Not yet. Too exposed." Martha frowned. I'm not hiding. You're not, Cole said. But they're not done either. The words settled heavily. Martha looked past him, out toward the road. He won't stop, she said. No, Cole replied. He won't. A pause, then. We move first. The plan was simple. Secure the documents. Contact Rachel. Build the case before Dean had time to reshape the narrative. But plans did not account for desperation. It happened just after sunrise. Titan noticed first. His head lifted sharply, ears angling toward the far side of the ranch. His body stiffened, not in uncertainty, but in immediate recognition. Cole saw it. What is it? He asked, already turning. Titan moved, fast. Not toward the road this time, toward the equipment shed near the back fence. Cole followed instantly. Martha hesitated only a second before moving after them, her heart already beginning to race. The air felt wrong, charged. The shed door stood slightly open. It hadn't been that way before. Cole slowed, his posture shifting into something sharper, more controlled. Stay back, he said. Martha stopped. But she did not retreat. Titan reached the door first. He paused, then stepped inside. The sound came immediately, a sharp movement, a sudden shift of weight. Cole moved, fast. Inside the shed, a man turned, startled, not expecting to be found so quickly. His hands moved toward the ground where the metal box had been hidden. Too late. Titan lunged, not wild, not uncontrolled, precise. The man stumbled backward, raising his arm instinctively. Titan's teeth closed around the sleeve, locking in place, holding, not tearing, controlling. Don't move, Cole said, his voice cutting through the space. The man froze, but only for a second. Desperation overtook him. He swung his other arm, hard. The impact landed against Titan's side. A dull, heavy sound. Titan did not release. Another strike, this time sharper. Metal. Cole moved in. Fast. He grabbed the man, pulling him off balance, driving him back against the wall of the shed. The struggle was brief but intense, controlled force meeting frantic resistance. Enough! Cole snapped. The man went still, breathing hard, eyes wide. Cole forced him down, securing him against the ground. Who sent you? He demanded. The man said nothing, didn't need to. Cole already knew. Outside, Martha stood frozen, her breath caught in her chest. Then, she saw it. Titan stepped back, slowly, but not cleanly. His movement faltered, just slightly, then again. Martha, Cole said sharply, stay there. But she was already moving, toward the shed, toward the dog. Titan's side was dark. At first, Martha thought it was shadow. Then she saw the red. Her heart dropped. Oh no. Her voice broke. Titan stood still, his body tense, his breathing heavier now. Cole turned, his focus shifting instantly. He released the man, securing him quickly with a length of rope from the shed, before moving to Titan's side. Easy, he said, his voice lower now, controlled but tight. His hands moved carefully, assessing. The wound was not deep enough to be immediately fatal, but it was serious. Blood stained the coarse fur along Titan's ribs, seeping through with each breath. Martha dropped to her knees beside them. Is he? He's hurt, Cole said. We need to move. The words were clipped, focused, no hesitation. Titan shifted again, trying to steady himself, his eyes still alert despite the pain. Cole placed a firm hand against his shoulder. Stay with me, he said. Martha reached out. her hand trembling as it hovered just above Titan's neck before settling gently against him. "You're okay," she whispered. "You're okay." The dog did not whine, did not pull away. He remained, steady, loyal, even now. Cole stood. "We're taking him to the vet," he said. "Now." Martha looked up. "What about him?" she asked, nodding toward the man tied inside the shed. Cole's expression hardened. "He's not going anywhere." Within minutes, the truck was moving, fast. Gravel sprayed beneath the tires as they tore down the road, the mountains blurring past in streaks of gray and white. Martha sat in the passenger seat, her hand still resting against Titan, who lay across the back, his breathing uneven but holding. Cole drove with a focus that bordered on absolute. No wasted motion, no hesitation. The storm had left the roads slick in places, patches of snow and mud turning the terrain unpredictable. It didn't slow him down. It couldn't. Every second mattered. Martha kept her voice low, steady. "You're not leaving us," she said softly. "You hear me? You're not leaving." Titan's ear flicked. Just once. It was enough. Cole didn't speak, but his grip on the wheel tightened. The truck pushed forward through the mountain road, through the cold air, through everything that stood between them and the one place that could help. Behind them, at the ranch, the line had been crossed again. Not just legal, not just emotional, physical. And now, there was no question left. This was no longer just about property, or documents, or control. This was about survival, and someone had just made it personal. The truck disappeared into the rising light, carrying with it a wounded dog, a man who would not lose him, and a woman who had already lost too much, and would not lose another thing without a fight. The veterinary clinic sat at the edge of town, a low building tucked between a feed store and a stretch of open field where the snow had not yet fully melted. It wasn't large and it wasn't modern, but it was trusted. Cole didn't slow as he pulled in. The truck came to a hard stop, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Before the engine had fully cut, Cole was already out, moving to the back. "Easy," he said, opening the door. Titan did not resist. He didn't need to. He trusted. Cole lifted him carefully, supporting his weight with practiced strength, his movements controlled but urgent. Blood had dried along Titan's side, dark against his fur, but fresh traces still marked where the wound had reopened during the drive. Martha followed close behind. "Help him," she called as the door opened. A woman in her 50s, steady-eyed and calm, stepped forward without hesitation. "Back room," she said. "Now." They moved quickly. Inside, the clinic smelled of antiseptic and warmth, a stark contrast to the cold outside. The lights were bright, unforgiving, revealing every detail. Cole laid Titan gently on the table. The dog's breathing was shallow but steady. "He took a hit to the ribs," Cole said. "Possible puncture." The veterinarian nodded, already working. "Stay with me, boy," she murmured, her hands moving with quiet efficiency. Martha stood at the edge of the room, her hands clasped tightly together, her eyes fixed on Titan. "Will he make it?" she asked. The woman didn't answer immediately. She focused, checked, listened. Then, "He's strong," she said, "but we need to move fast." Cole stepped back only when he had to. His hands were stained now, his expression locked in something deeper than concern. It was not fear. It was refusal. He was not going to lose him. Time blurred. Minutes stretched. Martha didn't sit. Didn't move. She watched. Every motion, every breath, every second. Then, finally, the veterinarian stepped back. "He's stable," she said. "The wound missed anything vital. He lost blood, but not enough to take him." Martha's breath left her in a quiet rush. Cole didn't react immediately. He stood still. Then slowly, he nodded. "Thank you." The woman met his eyes. "He'll need rest," she said, "and time. But he'll recover." Cole placed a hand gently against Titan's shoulder. The dog's ear flicked. A small movement, but enough. Martha smiled faintly, her eyes bright with something close to relief. "You did good," she whispered. Titan didn't respond, but he stayed. And that was everything. By the time they returned to the ranch, the sun had shifted again, the light softer now, the cold settling deeper into the land. The man from the shed was gone. Not escaped. Taken. A county deputy stood near the fence line speaking with another officer beside a patrol truck. The scene was controlled, contained. Cole stepped out of the vehicle, his posture shifting once more into something steady and guarded. "What happened?" he asked. The deputy turned. "Your guy didn't say much," he said. "But he didn't need to. We've got enough to hold him." He glanced toward the barn. "And we've got the call logged. Attempted break-in. Assault." Cole nodded. "That's a start." The deputy studied him briefly. "You've been keeping records," he said. "Yes. We'll need all of it." "You'll have it." The deputy looked toward Martha, then back to Cole. "This is going to move fast now," he said. Cole didn't respond. He already knew. Inside the house, the air felt different. Not lighter, but clearer. Martha stood near the table, the metal box open once more. The documents were spread carefully across the surface now, organized, visible, undeniable. Cole stepped beside her. "We call Rachel," he said. Martha nodded. "Do it." The call was brief, direct. Rachel Kincaid did not waste time. "I'll be there in an hour," she said. "Don't move anything." "We won't," Cole replied. When the line went quiet, Martha exhaled slowly. "This is really happening," she said. Cole glanced at her. "It already did," he said. "Now we prove it." Rachel arrived just before sunset. Her truck pulled in with purpose, her presence matching it. She stepped out carrying a leather case, her expression focused, her movements sharp without being rushed. Inside, she moved directly to the table. "Show me everything." Cole didn't speak. He simply stepped aside. Martha watched as Rachel opened the folder, her eyes scanning quickly, precisely, catching details that others might miss. Minutes passed. Then, Rachel stopped. Her hand rested on the journal. "Where did you get this?" she asked. Martha answered quietly. "My husband left it." Rachel nodded slowly. Then she picked up the flash drive. "Have you seen what's on this?" Martha shook her head. "No." Rachel looked at Cole. "Computer?" Cole nodded, moving to the small desk against the wall. He powered it on, the screen flickering to life in the dim light. Rachel inserted the drive. A file appeared. Dated, labeled, simple. Harold Bennett. Martha's breath caught. Rachel opened it. The screen filled with a video, grainy, unpolished. Harold sat in a chair, the familiar lines of his face older, thinner than Martha remembered, but unmistakably him. He looked directly at the camera. "If you're watching this," he said, his voice steady, then something didn't go the way it should have. Martha stepped closer. Her hand moved to her chest. Harold continued. I don't trust Dean, he said. Not with this land. Not with you. The words were calm, not angry, certain. I've made arrangements, he said. Documents that don't pass through anyone but you. And Cole. Martha's eyes moved toward Cole. He didn't look at her. He watched the screen. I didn't tell you, Harold continued, because I didn't want to put you in the middle of something you shouldn't have to carry. A pause. Then, if you're hearing this, it means I ran out of time. Martha's breath trembled. Harold leaned forward slightly. This land was never meant to end with me, he said. It was meant to grow, to become something that helps people who don't have anywhere left to go. His gaze softened. Veterans, dogs, folks who've been pushed out and forgotten. Martha's eyes filled. I trusted Cole to see it through, Harold said, and I trust you to decide what comes next. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Rachel leaned back slightly. This changes everything, she said. Martha didn't move. Her hand remained pressed against her chest. He knew, she whispered. Cole nodded once. Yes. Martha looked at the documents again, then at the wall, then at Cole. This isn't just about getting the land back, she said. No, Cole replied. It's about what it was supposed to become. Cole met her gaze. Yes. Rachel closed the folder carefully. We can win this, she said. With this, she tapped the documents, the journal, the drive. We don't just have a case. She looked at Martha. We have the truth. Martha nodded slowly. The grief remained, but it had changed. It was no longer just loss. It was direction. She stood straighter now. Her voice, when it came, was steady. Then we move forward, she said. Cole nodded. Rachel closed her case. Outside, the last light of day faded across the mountains. Inside, something had been set in motion. Not just justice, not just recovery. Something larger. Something Harold had seen before any of them. And now, it belonged to them to carry forward. And now, it belonged to them to carry forward. The weeks that followed did not rush. They moved with purpose, steady, deliberate, like everything else that had begun to take shape at the ranch. The legal process unfolded in measured steps. Rachel Kincaid filed motions, submitted evidence, built the case piece by piece with the precision of someone who understood both the law and the people who tried to bend it. The journal, the documents, the video, each became part of something larger than a dispute. It became a correction. Dean Holloway's confidence did not hold, not under scrutiny, not under the weight of proof. By the time the court hearing arrived, the outcome had already begun to lean in one direction. The evidence spoke clearly. The abandonment, the manipulation, the attempt to remove Martha without protection or oversight. It was no longer quiet. It was no longer hidden. Dean was taken into custody on multiple charges tied to fraud, exploitation, and the break-in attempt at the ranch. His attorney argued, delayed, tried to shift the narrative. It did not hold. Martha Bennett did not attend the hearing. She chose not to. Not out of fear, not out of avoidance, but because she understood something now. Everything that needed to be said had already been said. The Bennett farm returned to her legally in early spring. The paperwork arrived on a clear morning, the sky open and pale, the mountains sharp against the horizon. Rachel brought it in person, placing the documents on the same table where everything had begun to change. "It's yours," she said. Martha looked at the papers, then at the land outside, then back at Rachel. "Thank you," she said. Rachel nodded. "You did the hard part," she replied. Martha didn't answer immediately, because she knew that wasn't entirely true. They drove to the farm 2 days later. Cole drove. Martha sat beside him, her hands resting calmly in her lap. Titan lay in the back, his movements slower now, his body still healing, but his presence unchanged. The road into Gunnison felt familiar and distant, like something remembered through glass. When they reached the property, the house stood exactly as it had, unchanged. The porch, the fence, the fields, all still there. Martha stepped out slowly. The air felt different here, not colder, not warmer, just older. She walked toward the porch, each step measured, intentional. Cole stayed back. He understood. This part was hers. Martha reached the front steps, paused, then sat. The wood creaked slightly beneath her weight, just as it always had. She looked out across the land. Memories moved through her, not sharply, not painfully, but steadily. The years, the seasons, the life she had built here with Harold, all still real, all still hers, but no longer waiting for her. She sat there for a long time. Cole did not interrupt. Titan lay beside him, watching. The wind moved through the field, carrying the scent of soil and distance. Finally, Martha stood. She walked through the house one last time, not searching, not reclaiming, just seeing. Then she stepped back outside. Cole met her at the base of the steps. "Are you staying?" he asked. Martha looked at the house, then at the land, then at him. "No," she said. The word was calm, certain. Cole nodded. He had expected that. Martha exhaled slowly. "This place gave me everything it was meant to," she said. "But it's not where I'm meant to be now." Cole didn't argue. He didn't need to. Martha looked toward the mountains in the distance. "Harold wasn't wrong," she said, "about what it could become." Cole followed her gaze. "No," he said. "He wasn't." A pause, then. "What do you want to do?" he asked. Martha turned back to him. Her eyes were clear, steady. "We build it," she said. Cole studied her. "Here?" he asked. Martha shook her head. "No." She looked back toward the ranch. "Somewhere that's already standing." The decision was not rushed, but it was firm. Martha sold part of the Bennett property, enough to secure her future and fund what came next. The rest she placed into something new, something structured, intentional. Together, she and Cole began building what Harold had imagined, not as a memory, but as a living place. The ranch changed, slowly, purposefully. The old barn was reinforced. The spare rooms were expanded. New fencing went up, not to keep people out, but to hold something safe inside. Veterans began to arrive. Not many at first. Just a few. Men and women who carried the same quiet weight Cole knew too well. They came for different reasons, but they stayed for the same one. The space, the work, the understanding. Titan recovered. Not fully at first, but enough. He moved slower now, his steps more measured, but his eyes remained the same. Sharp, aware, steady. He stayed close to Martha often, as if he had chosen her, or perhaps as if he had always known. Martha found her place in the rhythm of it, not as someone being helped, but as someone helping, organizing, managing, listening. The same strength she had carried for 50 years found new direction, and it held. One evening, months later, the light settled over the ranch in that quiet, golden way that made everything feel briefly suspended. Martha sat on the porch, a cup of tea in her hands, the silver bracelet resting softly against her wrist. Titan lay at her feet, his breathing slow, his body relaxed. In the distance, two young men worked along the fence line, their movements steady, their voices low. Cole stood near the barn, watching them, not as a supervisor, as someone who understood what it meant to stand there. Martha looked out across the land, not the one she had lost, the one she had chosen. Cole walked over, stopping beside her. "Good day," he said. Martha nodded. "Yes," she replied. "A good day." They stood in silence for a moment, the kind that did not need to be filled. Titan shifted slightly, resting his head more comfortably against the porch boards. Martha reached down, her hand brushing gently along his neck. "Still with us," she said softly. Cole glanced down at the dog. "Always," he said. The sun dipped lower, the light softened, the land held. Martha exhaled slowly, her gaze steady. She had been left on a road with nothing. She had walked forward without knowing where it would lead. And she had found not what she had lost, but what she still had the strength to build. A place, a purpose, a life that continued. And as the last light slipped behind the mountains, the ranch remained. Lit. Not by electricity, not by anything seen, but by something quieter, something earned, something that would not be taken again, and for the first time in a long time. Martha Bennett was not looking back. She was exactly where she needed to be, and she knew it. If you believe no one should ever be pushed off their land or left behind, type yes in the comments. There's still good people out there who stand their ground, and stories like this prove it. If that means something to you, stick around and subscribe. There's more truth like this coming.